wanted to give you a little window into what it's like to be a foreign correspondent for ABC News. What it definitely means is that you travel a lot. This is my office in London, but I haven't stepped foot in here in 3 weeks. That explains the mess, I hope. A couple weeks ago, I flew from London to Dubai to Afghanistan to cover the elections. Traveled around Afghanistan a bit while we were there for a couple weeks. Then flew back from Afghanistan to Dubai, to London, to San Francisco, to Utah to visit my wife's family, then from Utah to New York to visit my family, and then just this morning flew back from New York to London. I did the math on it. It was something like 50 hours in a plane, 21,000 miles over those couple of weeks. So basically I flew once around the world. So a lot of people ask me, with all that travel, do I really have a home? And while New York will always be my home, I was born and raised there, after 6 years here in London, London has definitely become a home away from home. And I have to say that even after all that time here, I still get a thrill out of the place, and especially as an American living here. And what it really is all those little things that are very particular to London that you only find here. How are you? One of those little things are the double-decker buses. When I'm up here on the second level where you can see everything, I can't shake the feeling that you're on a little mini tour of the city. One of those other little things are the London black taxis. To drive one of these, you have to take a 2-year course just to learn all the streets of London, from the big boulevards to the tiny little alleyways. It's the only city I've ever been to where pretty much everyone carries around a map that's a book. They call it the London A to Z, or the London A to Z. And it's kind of understood that you need one of these to get around here. But one of the other great things about the cab is that it fits so many people. You and your 4 closest friends can get in the back. One thing you can count on in London is that you're always surrounded by history. Bill Bryson, the author, said that in a typical English village, you have more historical sites dating to the 1600s just in one village than you have in all of the US. So you have things like this. You're walking through a park and you come up to a palace. This is Fulham Palace. I'm not sure if it was like this because they were short then, but for years this is where the bishops of London lived, and it's at the end of the King's Road, which is called that because it's the road that the king took from Buckingham Palace to get to Fulham Palace. People think of the Thames as a busy city river, but once you get out of the center of town, downtown, it looks like this, like a country stream. And just as you go down the river a bit, you really see villages, still part of Greater London, but it makes you feel like you're in the countryside. I know the idea of a warm beer doesn't sound that appetizing. They really only do that for the ales, but there's something for me that's nice about a British pub. Partly it's the age. This one's 300 years old, but it's also that it's a tradition. People come here for a pint, not 12-ounce beers, for 16 ounces. If you like tradition, this is the place for a drink. Now, I'm not saying London is a paradise by any means. I mean, after all, the pubs close at 11 o'clock, and don't get me started on the weather. Trust me, this is a rare blue sky day in London. Charles Dickens said that he saw more mud and fog in London in a minute than in a year in other cities. But as an American, as a foreign correspondent, London makes a great home away from home.